Welcome to Learning to Learn. Today we're in Oxford TEFL, which is where if you're interested in becoming a professional English teacher, then this is a really good place to know. And one of the people that you might meet if you come here is a person called Duncan Foord, who we happen to be interviewing today. Duncan, hello.
Hi, Ian.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yep, I have been in Spain for 30 years now, nearly. I started teaching 35 years ago, so I worked in London before that. I'm a teacher trainer. I've been a director of studies, and I founded this school 21 years ago with some other people. So that's what I've been doing with my life. I've also got 3 children, a cat, a girlfriend.
How old are your kids?
Well, the oldest is 30, then 25 and 12.
Any of them thinking of becoming an English teacher?
Well, 2 of them, actually, the 2 oldest have both done the CELTA course here and do still teach.
Professionally, you've done a few other things as well.
Yes, I've also written 3 books. About 10 years ago, I wrote a book called The Developing Teacher, which is about teacher development and leadership for teachers. And before that, a book with Lindsay Clanfield called The Language Teacher's Survival Handbook, which was a kind of guide for teachers starting out.
Right. Okay. But the third book is?
From English Teacher to Learner Coach.
Now, this is a subject that I'm very interested in because before I became a writer, I did a coaching training myself, but I never actually made that connection between coaching and learning. But I saw your talk that you gave a few days ago, the APAC conference, and it suddenly opened a whole new aspect of coaching, how coaching could help people. They don't have a problem, they just want to become a better learner.
Yeah.
So could you give us a 5-minute explanation of how does that work?
One of the sort of key metaphors in the book is the idea that language learning is like any other endeavor, like giving up smoking or becoming more healthy and fit. You kind of set yourself some goals, you have some ambitions. It's often a New Year's resolution, certainly for a lot of people here in Spain. And coaching comes in because it deals with how you kind of motivate yourself to continue and follow through with that endeavor, how you set yourself goals, how you monitor them. And I think that's super relevant because we focus a lot on what the teacher does in the classroom in terms of teaching the group before them, but less on how they help the students achieve their goals. So that's where the coaching comes in, really. It's a challenge, and just like giving up smoking or losing weight, people want to improve their English and succeed at it, and very often don't for various reasons.
You're explaining how teachers can use coaching to help their students. Now, it is quite likely that the people watching this video are actually the students themselves. Yeah. And so the obvious question is there any aspect of coaching that students can use to self-coach?
Absolutely. I mean, the book, in fact, which is an e-book, by the way, it's available online. There's no paper version.
We might be doing a plug at the end. Watch the video to the end because you'll be seeing the link. Okay?
Yep. And what you'll see when you go to the link is it says you can buy the whole thing or you can buy a student's book and a teacher's book. So the student's book has more activities that a student could use on their own without a teacher, and the teacher's book has more of a rationale to help people in classrooms incorporate that. But really, it's for everybody because the process is a collaboration.
So could you give a couple of concrete examples of the sort of thing that you're talking about where the student can self-coach?
A very simple activity in the student's book might be something like Mission Not Impossible, where the student creates for themselves a goal for each day of the week with English, which may be read the BBC website for 5 minutes on Monday, on Tuesday talk to my friend over a coffee in English for 15 minutes, etc., etc. I mean, they can create what they like, little challenges like that, and this is something learners of English can do on their own. There are also some activities, listening to a song or writing a restaurant review that students could do on their own. Maybe they do already, but it helps them do it more effectively.
So what you're saying is making specific plans. You make the challenges, you write them down, say this is the challenge, this is when I'm going to do it, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to do it.
Exactly. I mean, one of the other activities called 8 Days a Week, and where they make a weekly plan of what they're going to do, which may or may not include attending language class, but includes other things. So in the book we talk about the student's language life, which we think is important for the student to be aware of, but also their teacher if they have a teacher.
Any other recommendations or ideas?
I think what I haven't talked about so far maybe is this kind of sporting aspect of the coaching metaphor. And when I think of coach, I also think of sports coaches. It's quite interesting. With sport, if it's tennis, you don't really have a teacher, you have a coach. But English, we have a teacher. Maths, we have a teacher. There is an activity actually in the book about that. Why do we call some people teachers and some people coaches and some people tutors? When I think of the sports coach, I think not just somebody explaining to you how to do a good backhand, if it's a tennis coach, for example, but also someone who's in some way on your side and cheering you on, slapping you on the back, high five, good job, that kind of thing. And I think that's an element that the book captures as well and promotes for teachers in the classroom to think of themselves in that way.
So what you're saying then is that the motivation is also important, the getting recognition from somebody congratulating you on having achieved your challenges, whatever they are, and inspiring you to go on.
Absolutely.
Is there any way you can do that yourself?
You can. We talk about the coaching MOP in the book, which is an acronym for motivate, organise and practice, which we think are the three key elements of a coach. Now, the coach can be another person, but you can do those things to yourself as well. It requires quite a high level of self-awareness to understand what motivates you and to practice on your own. Most language learners need some kind of connection, either with a teacher or with other learners to really fully succeed at anything. Yes, you can do it on your own, but it's more difficult, I think, to do that.
So what you're saying then is that it's actually worth investigating the idea of getting yourself a learning coach.
Coaching I think of not necessarily as a job, but as a role, a thing we do. And we do it as human beings. We kind of coach each other all the time. Parents, kids. My daughter coaches me, I coach her. Teachers coach each other. It's about the relationship we have at given times. And that relationship includes listening carefully, encouraging, trying to understand what's going to get that person motivated and helping them.
If you're studying, for instance, you're studying English, or if you're doing your A-levels or bachillerato or whatever, the person who coaches you doesn't necessarily have to be a teacher.
No.
Right.
Absolutely not. It could be your friend. And in fact, a lot of people do this, I think. They find study buddies or they have groups and they help each other. I mean, I've noticed that here. Teachers preparing for our Trinity Diploma course, for example, apart from the help they get from the tutors, they come on Saturday morning, they form their group, they're online in their WhatsApp group. They are coaching each other all the time. And very often the important thing there isn't the information. It's about the moral support, the motivation, the pat on the back, the commiseration, there's someone to listen to, which actually gets people through. I have singing lessons at the moment. I'm terrible at singing, really. I'm not very good. I'm like a beginner.
Right.
And the teacher I have now is, what's fantastic about her, not is that she knows about singing and she's a great singer herself, but it's the way she makes me feel. It's helped me to empathise even more with learners, because we all know, especially with beginner learners, they get very frustrated and worried, and they have beliefs about themselves that stop them achieving. I can't do this, I'm no good at this, I'm no good at languages, I'm too old, I'm too young. There's lots of these limiting beliefs, and I think you need someone else to help you overcome those. And my singing teacher does that very well. I mean, she's the difference between me carrying on with lessons and not. And it's interesting for teachers to grasp that thing. What am I doing to help people carry on?
Do you have any personal success stories that you could share?
Well, I'm going back about 4 or 5 years when I first started getting into this, and we were writing or pre-writing the book. I did some work with a class I was teaching, where I tried something along the lines of the activities we were talking about earlier, 7 days a week, where every Monday, it was a kind of intensive course. The students were coming in Monday to Thursday for 2 hours, and every Monday we would have this point where they would make this plan for their week, for their language life, and what they were going to do, what we were talking about earlier. And they would sort of write it down and commit to it and talk for 10 minutes, and that would be the activity. And the next Monday they'd come in and they would sort of get out your notebook and what have you done about what you said. And this was like the best part of the week. The students loved it. And what happened was it also became very student-led, because they started picking up on ideas from each other. Oh, what website? Oh, you listened to that there. Oh, why? What was it like? Oh, what film did you see? Was that good for our level? All the sort of questions and doubts that students have. Oh, I'm not going to go to the cinema because it's too difficult. It's for native speakers. And someone else would say, no, I watched it and it had the subtitles and it worked. So all the kind of coaching things like motivation and opportunities were coming out naturally in this conversation. And of course, the peer motivation or nudging, which is something else that we talk about in the book, which is very important, that often students are motivated more by each other than by the teacher, would come out as well. So they would see their classmates had done a bit more than them maybe, and they hadn't done stuff, and then they'd be motivated next week to sort of to catch up a bit. They would become a little bit competitive as well. That was quite a revelation to me, because up until then it was sort of ideas, and I thought, God, they are actually doing it. And we were kind of measuring it. I'd say to them, well, how many hours did you spend in English outside class this week compared to last week? And they would actually start trying to measure it and see that the numbers were increasing.
Right.
And this is great. This is like putting someone on some scales and look, you've lost 3 kilos. You know, here it's the opposite. You've gained 3 kilos in your English. You've done all these things. And that I thought was, that was a success story.
Yeah. Coaching and education, the best part of the week.
Yes. That's how I felt. Maybe they didn't share that, and they would just think, oh, we're doing this because Duncan wants us to do it, and then we'll get on and learn the comparatives and superlatives. I've no idea, but I don't think that was the case. They certainly weren't saying, let's stop doing this. So it kind of gave me optimism.
Just to wrap it up, how would you put what you've said in a nutshell?
Okay. Coaching, what it offers is a path, I think, to success. You've got an endeavour, you want to learn a language, and you want to maximise your chance of it. It's a framework that helps you get where you want to get by looking at yourself as a human being in a more complete way than just a student of English or someone learning English. So I think coaching kind of does that. It gets you there.
Right. Get a coach, it gets you there.
Yes.
Excellent. Duncan Foord, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ian.
It's been a pleasure. Don't turn off, because the link of Duncan's book is coming up in about 2 seconds. Thank you very much, Duncan.
Thank you. Bye-bye.